Pop quiz. So, if I were to ask you who is your favorite person in fiction that is immortal, who would be your answer? Go ahead and let me know in the comment section down below. But think about it for a second. Some examples might include like Dracula or Alucard, or you could technically count Frieza if he would have made his wish on the Dragon Balls to become immortal. You know, there's a lot of different people that would be immortal. And I'm gonna be honest for a second, I have a problem with most of them. Like, when people are like, oh yes, I would love to have immortality, they make them a less interesting character for me. It's like, oh, your only objective is to become immortal and you can't die. Okay, but then their whole character gets wrapped up in this, like, ooh, immortality, ha ha ha, it will be mine, kind of a thing. And I'm like, no, I don't like that. However, there's one person that I feel does a good job of being immortal, and it still defines him, but it is not the only thing that defines him. And that is von Hohenheim from Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. So, do you have a minute to talk about Alka history? Greetings, friends, and welcome to another exciting episode of Matt's Minute. So, before we get too far into the episode, I do want to say there are going to be major spoilers for Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. I mean, major. So if you haven't seen the show and want to, I believe it's still on Netflix, so go ahead and check that out. If not, you could probably find it on Crunchyroll, just the same. And then come back to this episode. For those of you that have seen it, well, you have good taste because it's my favorite show of all time. So, anyway, back to the point. Von Hohenheim. What makes him such an interesting character is the fact that he is immortal, but the way that they do it is really fascinating. So what I'm going to do really quickly is break down his backstory as briefly as I can. So, let's get into that. Alright, let's do this as quickly as we can, but it's not going to be easy. Von Hohenheim was born a slave named Slave 23. He didn't have anything in life because he was a slave, and he always had this dream of having a family, but he didn't think that was possible. Enter the homunculus, which was given birth thanks to Slave 23's blood. The homunculus, grateful for the donor, gave him a name, von Hohenheim, gave him an education, and gave him the power of alchemy, or at least the knowledge on how to use it, something like that. Then, the king asked the homunculus for immortality and how to achieve it. So, the homunculus made a countrywide transmutation circle and was going to give the king immortal life, except at the last second he duped everyone, and in a final gift to Hohenheim for giving the homunculus his blood, the entire country of Xerxes was sacrificed, and so von Hohenheim gained immortality, though he didn't want it. He then left Xerxes and traveled the desert. In the meantime, he realized that there were 536,329 souls living within him that were just constantly tormenting him. Hohenheim set out to learn everything he could about every single one of those souls. He then went to the country of Xing, founded Alka history, and eventually moved back to the country of Amestris, met a girl named Tricia, and the two of them got married, and Hohenheim got his wish. And then he had two kids, Edward and Alphonse. He got everything he wanted. Took him, I think 400 or 500 years, but he finally got it all. During his research one day, he figured out that the homunculus, now known as Father, created a countrywide transmutation circle. Knowing this, Hohenheim figured he could use the souls within him to create a counter transmutation circle, and left his family, which broke him. He did not want to do that, and his son Ed did not like him as a result for this and actually hated him. Hohenheim traveled the country for years and later found out that his wife died, and his two sons, who had become alchemists, committed the one taboo alchemists that are not supposed to do, which is human transmutation. Hohenheim then created the transmutation circle, somewhat had a relationship with both of his sons, and then helped in the final fight against Father, eventually returning to Trisha's grave and dying because he had used all the souls that were in him during the final fight with Father. He had none left and died at her gravesite. That was really long, so let's get into the rest of the video. I promise there was no way I could have shortened that, because you'll see why in here in a little bit. Really hope you were paying attention during all that, because at least most of it is going to come back up at some point. So here's a man that starts off with nothing, and after just a few years gains knowledge, power, and immortality. Two of which were great. He loved, having knowledge and having power and getting a name and having status. He wasn't a prick about it, but he enjoyed having it. But immortality? Hohenheim never wanted that. He saw that as a curse. And knowing that 536,329 souls had to die in order to give him immortality? No, that broke him as a man. And so he classified himself as a monster. He didn't think he could ever achieve that goal of having a family because he would just outlive them and he would have to watch them all die. And so he tried to close himself off from people, having minor relationships here and there, not with, intimate ones, but like he would have a friend here, a friend here. He was still goofy and somewhat outgoing for a man in his position, but he never really could attain the one thing that he wanted. He was always consumed by the fact that he was a monster and he was immortal. That's a really cool concept to me, because most of the people that have immortality in media want it or crave it or were born with it. And so it's, this is how I always am. Okay, cool. It's not bestowed upon them. And especially if they didn't want it. I think that is really telling, that he was given this gift and it's like, no, I don't want it. This ruins everything that I have and have ever wanted in life. And that's just a really cool take on immortality as a whole. The next part about why this is all so interesting is because later on, Hohenheim does get what he wants. He wants that family, and eventually he does settle down. And he has a wife, he has 2 kids, and he has no idea how to express himself. He has been so closed off to others for so long that when he finally gets what he's been wanting all these years, he comes across as super awkward and uncomfortable because he didn't have parents to teach him how to love. And he never, he's been by himself except for the souls living within him for at least 400 or 500 years. And so when he finally has a son, he doesn't know what to do. And also with that, he is so awkward because he doesn't want to hurt his son. He is terrified about passing on his immortality or his powers or any of the souls to either of his kids, which he didn't. I don't think that's possible, but they're just normal humans. But he is so scared that if he even touches them, he'll transfer some of what makes him a monster over to them. And man, could you imagine finally getting what you want in life, the thing you want the most, and you can't even enjoy it? Oh, that's just heartbreaking. Seriously, that's just so heartbreaking. I can't even imagine what a man must feel like in that position. In addition, von Hohenheim has to give up his family because he realizes the entire country's in danger again. Seeing firsthand what Father's plan is going to do and being living proof of it, he knows he has to give up his family in order to save them. And so he tells Trisha what he is going to do, and that he always has felt like a monster. And her response is to do a family picture to show him that he's not a monster, that they love him, and all he can do during this picture is cry. I will post that right up here so you can see that picture. It's heartbreaking. But then he finds out like how serious this is, and the only way to keep his family safe is for him to go and create this countrywide reverse transmutation circle. And Edward completely sees his father leaving, and Ed interprets his father having this cold, hard stare and being a cold man, when in reality it's later revealed that Hohenheim was just trying not to cry. But he knew what he had to do, and he was willing to sacrifice whatever he could to keep his family safe, only to have an unspeakable tragedy happen, and his wife died. And his sons trying to bring her back accidentally sealed one of them into a suit of armor, and the other one lost his arm and leg. And he must be racked with guilt, thinking, if I'd been there, I could have stopped it. And that's what his sons even think. But he carries on with his mission. And he does what is right. He does what he needs to do. Because either way, he's going to look like a bad guy. But he does what is right for the country, and sacrifices pieces of his own immortality in order to save this country and save his family. Finally, the last point is when he goes to fight Father, you realize how much Hohenheim cares about everyone and everything. You find out how much he cares for his family. And you find out that the 536,329 souls that have been living in him, he got to know every single one of them, their wants, their needs, their desires. And even when Father tries to steal some of the souls from him, the souls fight back because they know that Hohenheim actually cares about them. And that is amazing, to think that these souls have been trapped in him for so long, and Hohenheim conversed with every single one of them, has a relationship with every single one of them, to the point that they are willing to fight to protect him, and then that they are the energy for this countrywide reverse transmutation circle. Oh my gosh, like, this man cared about every single one of those souls. He cared about the entire country of Amestris, and even during the fight with Father, he begged his sons to use the energy in him to either get their bodies back or just survive. He does not care about his own life at this point. He is trying to sacrifice himself for the sake of others. Even after Father's been defeated, he's like, Ed, take my body and get Al's back. And Ed refuses, calling him a terrible father, but that makes Hohenheim cry, but also makes him happy, because it's the first time and throughout the entirety of the show that Edward refers to him as his father. He said he was a lousy father, but hey, Hohenheim will take it. And then Hohenheim goes to Trish's grave. And what you learn is, in that moment, he's saying, you're never going to believe this, but I wish I could live just a little longer to be with my sons. And then he dies. But he dies with a smile on his face. This is so beautiful. And I think the full story of Hohenheim is the truest example of what immortality can or should look like. He wants to give it up from the very start, but then once he realizes it and accepts it, he then gives everything he has, including parts of his own body and immortality, to try and save others, to create alchemy, which is mostly medicine focused and not as combat form of alchemy. He's willing to give up what he has in order to save an entire country, because he sees himself as a monster, even though people around him are telling him, you're not. Until after he leaves, and then yeah, of course his sons are telling him that, mostly Ed. But then he redeems himself at the end. Even though he really didn't need much redeeming in the first place, because he really was just trying to do the right thing, but both choices looked bad. I just adore this character, and I'm really sad that he's not covered that much, because he deserves all the credit in the world. And it's for this reason why von Hohenheim would easily be one of my top 3 anime characters of all time, or just, I'm willing to bet he would probably be on a top 3 best fictional characters of all time list for me, but I digress. That's a list for another day. And that's all the time we have for today. I know this is kind of a longer video, but I really think that von Hohenheim needs more credit out there for just everything that he does. I think he's incredible, and so I was willing to give him a little bit longer minute. So anyway, it's my channel, my show, so that's what I decided to do. But hey, let me know what you think. Did I bring up a point about Hohenheim that you hadn't thought of before? Or what are your opinions on von Hohenheim? Who are your favorite fictional characters? Leave all of these in the comment section down below. I really do read them. I really appreciate when you guys comment and respond. It really does help out the channel. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe if you have not already, to stay up to date on all the newest content. Thank you guys so much, and have a great day.